So, March 1st. I don't think I did this one last year. I can't believe I didn't do this one last year. What was I doing? What was I thinking? Because it's a good day. That's what I'm trying to hype here. On this day in 1885, Lionel Atwill was born. I am a big Lionel Atwill fan. I didn't really dig around here. I have some Lionel Atwill stuff. He was originally a Broadway actor. I think like doing possibly Shakespeare, but certainly like real acting, and got a taste of playing a monster in Hollywood and never looked back. Was just determined to make Mad Doctor movies for the rest of his career. So like the other day we were talking about Carol Borland being somebody who, okay, she was an actress, but she wasn't just an actress, she was a kindred spirit. Is Lionel Atwill like that as well? I don't know, maybe. He would apparently attend murder trials, and when the press would say, "What are you doing here, Mr. Atwill?" he would respond by saying, "This side of my face is loving and caring, and this side of my face hates you." I love that. Mysteries of the Wax Museum, The Vampire Bat, Murders in the Zoo. So much good stuff he did. He was in Son of Frankenstein, of course, as the inspector. Mad Doctor of Market Street. Have I seen that one? I don't think I've seen that one. Maybe I should see that one on the day he was born. What else? Secrets of the Blue Room, The Sphinx. You know, he stuck with it. He was real into it. There's also a whole story about, Kenneth Anger really went into detail with in Hollywood Babylon. True or not, that he'd have these, I'll say secret, but not really. He'd have these sex parties at his mansion where like half or most of Hollywood had like keys to like get into like a secret doorway to enter. And then he got wrapped up in some underage girls being involved, and then all of Hollywood like turned their back on him, and he was like blacklisted from ever working again and died shortly thereafter. Was it from a broken heart? Probably not. Anyway, Lionel Atwill. Mysteries of the Wax Museum. It's probably my favorite. Dr. X. He's in Dr. X too, isn't he? I think so. It's just lots of really good stuff. Like mostly pre-code horrors, which are mostly my favorite. Yeah. What else? Oh, here's another real pre-code horror for you. 1902, today, Tiffany Thayer was born. I know. There's a huge Tiffany Thayer fan club out there. Population, not one, but probably count them on one hand. What can we say about Tiffany Thayer? A complete crazy person. I've been quite obsessed for many years. I think I stumbled upon a blurb synopsis of one of his novels once and was like, what are they talking about? I've got to find this book. And it led me on this really long rabbit hole of a search. He was the #1 fan of Charles Fort, who, I guess in like the World War I era, maybe the 20s, definitely like World War I era, was almost like a real life Fox Mulder who would like scour newspapers all over the world to find reports of like the strange and the unusual, to like document all this, like, you know, be it aliens or reports of some odd material raining from the sky that didn't make any sense, or I mean just anything. And very much didn't value his own work. But Tiffany Thayer did, and so created the Fortean Society to celebrate Charles Fort, who wanted nothing to do with the society based around him, and to the point that, like, Tiffany is a dude, by the way, like, at one point tricked Charles Fort into, like, coming to, like, a Fortean Society meeting, which he, like, promptly apparently, like, got up and walked out and left, and, like, ridiculous. Anyway, meanwhile, so here's this guy who loves Charles Fort, his work, and embracing the, like, just absurdity of life, I guess. And so wrote a whole bunch of books that he's, like, laughing at the universe. It's the only way I can say it. But, like, in such a way that, like, it doesn't feel modern and ironic in any way, shape, or form. He did a bunch of novels that were actually successful. 13 Men is probably his, like, the one that really, like, catapulted him to stardom, that he didn't have to, like, he could quit his day job at that point. But then he also made 13 Women, which there's no dust jacket for, but this is 32, and it was optioned into a really great pre-code horror film starring Myrna Loy. You can see 13 Women, definitely do. It's Myrna Loy before she's America's sweetheart, and basically plays like a horror character, I'd say. There's like sinister swamis and death curses, and it's almost a supernatural horror film. Certainly worth it. Around the same time, he also made Call Her Savage. Here is the photoplay novelization. This was made into a really great pre-code horror film. Nope, just a pre-code film, not horror. But Clara Bow is in this, and if it's not her wildest performance, it's her wildest performance that still exists today, because a lot of her content is gone. Yeah. But that's not the point of what attracted me to Tiffany Thayer. Not at all. The blurb I read was about a 1934 novel called Dr. Arnaldi, that at the time, because I stumbled upon this 15 years ago, it had never been reprinted. There was only the single printing in 1934. Here is a copy with the original dust jacket. Can you see this here? I don't want to step on the dog. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Love it. Why, you ask? Why is this so special? The story in this, all of a sudden, for no completely defined reason, people can't die anymore. No matter how hurt they get, no matter how sick they get, no matter how old they get, they're just going to keep on living. And it's like, takes place in like 1934 New York City, starting with the elevated subway trains being put under the streets in that same time, which is like what was happening then. And there's like a subway collapse in the meantime, and this one character winds up getting like crushed, not exactly to death, but close enough to death, but just keeps on living, and they can't figure out why. And then it turns out to be like everybody, no matter how hurt they get, just can't die. So they start like experimenting with people and like putting them in meat grinders, and like their like smushed organs and flapping meat winds up just continuing to pulse. People keep being people that we are and continue to breed. Some people realize like this is a problem, that like we're gonna hurt ourselves and not be able to heal, so they wind up like strapping automobile tires to their shoulders as if it's like the Road Warrior or something. But this was written in 1934. Society completely collapses. There's points where they're just like taking people, writhing people, and like throwing them into the ocean. A lot of people, because the world's getting like fully overpopulated at this point. Why they didn't somehow just outlaw reproduction, I don't know, but we never went there with it for some reason. Anyway, so yeah, they wind up throwing all these bodies into the ocean, which then gets filled up with like writhing islands full of people. It is like, and by the end of the story, he's just like cursing every god that could have ever possibly put the story into his brain. Tiffany Thayer, I'm saying. Which, by the way, here's a original picture of him. You can just tell he just loves to get into trouble. Look at this. Reference department, 1931. You can see that? Original press photo. I don't know. I've been like such a weirdo for this guy and his work for so long. A new portrait of Tiffany Thayer, author of the best-selling, that's in quotes, novels 13 Men and Call Her Savage by the Japanese photographer Nishiyama. Yeah. Some of these biographies of him are like equally as absurd as possible. Here's the back cover of Dr. Arnaldi. He is young, handsome, wise, with a good reporter's wisdom. He knows more about people and about making a novel easy and exciting to read than most of his celebrated contemporaries. What you first notice about him are his eyes. They are large and blue and winning in their ways. He prefers to wear caps, smokes a vile brand of cigarettes, so that no one ever bums a second, and is married to Tanagra, the dancer. Dr. Arnaldi is his 10th novel. I don't feel like that was the best one. There's another one. No, I probably don't. I've got a bunch of others. Forget it. One of his biographies on one of the back of his books. Maybe it's Illustrious Corpse. 13 Men. I don't know. One of the other ones has this really just absurd, like, he's just laughing at us for like being chumps for going along on the ride, but in such a way that it's so inventive and disgusting that and just like utterly sacrilegious to like the mainstream world that I don't know, I'm here for it. So right throughout my journey with Tiffany Thayer, that book had not been reproed ever. And it's got really difficult to find in the meantime. I feel like I must have bought up every copy and lent it to somebody or another and then lost it in the meantime. But great news. Some random person just made a new version of it like a couple of years ago for the first time ever. I think it's here somewhere. No problem. Here we go. Yeah. Buy this book. See, can you see here that Palm Beach Island there with that face? That Palm Beach Island is made up of all writhing human bodies. Can you see that? Yeah. That's really good. There's a lot more to it I have not told you. Because you can go on this adventure yourself. This is a very gruesome story, and one that I think maybe would have made for a great EC Comics adaptation. That's right. Today, March 1st, 1922, Bill Gaines was born, the true mastermind behind DC Comics and everything they created. Not just horror comics, mind you. Not just these fine fiends, but all sorts of, well, there were westerns, there were romance things, but a lot of the science fiction stories are incredibly poignant and impactful for the time that they were created in. This is all pre-civil rights movement, and they were doing all sorts of anti-racist, anti-ageist, anti-sexist sexist type content at a time where this was having you lose followers. But they were doing it because they knew what they were doing was morally right, and they were going to stand up for what they believed in. And in the process, the American government declared war on EC Comics and basically shut them down in the process. Which led to him then doing Mad Magazine, having to change the format and change the content, but still continue on telling or providing the content that he wanted to people out there. Yeah, to the point that, like, this is like during the McCarthy witch trials, or witch hunts, whatever, they determined that EC Comics was a ploy by the USSR to turn our children into juvenile delinquents. Wild, right? Yeah. Anyway, great stuff. Wish I could have met him. Born too late. And on this day, last, certainly not least, oh no, not today, sometime this month. Sometimes I'll pick the first of the month for things that I can't exactly identify when they happened in the month. No, when this happened. This hit, anyway, 1923, Weird Tales magazine hit the newsstands in March for the first time. And this is important for lots of reasons. I feel like I talk about Weird Tales a lot, and rightfully so, because it had explained to me that Famous Monsters magazine brought Halloween to the newsstands for kids every month from the 50s onwards, and it was, who said that? Brad Lineweaver, I want to say. Maybe not, somebody. Anyway, it was then told to me that in a similar way, Weird Tales magazine was like a lightning rod, because there was nothing of its kind, in America at least, prior to Weird Tales 1923, March, that could connect people into the strange and the unusual in any other way. Like, you know, throughout the country, throughout the world, it was Curtis Harrington, the occult filmmaker, who told me that, like, Weird Tales growing up was like his Bible, that like everything in here, be it the short stories, the artwork, the letters column, which you have to remember at this time is like utterly crucial for like isolated people all around the world who otherwise think like nobody is interested in monsters and the strange. They would all have like conversation clubs in the back of the letters column every month. And this was like how they found kindred spirits and talked about projects they were working on and were inspired by other people. And then, you know, I mean, it's so easy today to say like, I have my phone, I can just post something somewhere and get some validation and not feel like such a weirdo. Back then, that wasn't happening. But it was in Weird Tales magazine. And from that birthed truly everything that we know today. From the Anton LaVey's and Forrest J. Ackerman's to all the sci-fi and horror, occult fantasy that we embrace in our lives, because this is living. Because this is living. So, anyway, in closing, that's all I gotta say. I can't believe I didn't do this one last month, or last year. Ridiculous. What a good one. Right? Right. Till tomorrow. Goodbye.